Mystical illumination, that's you? That's right, I'm back. Flaws and all. Because I don't want to put on no type of makeup, I'm trying to keep this clear. I want to talk about today evil in the houses and give you my take on the second house, the sixth house, and the 10th house in astrology. Now, these are the earth sign houses. So, second house, Taurus, sixth house, Virgo, and 10th house, Capricorn. Now, as a disclaimer, I'm not saying to you that if you have planets in these houses or, this is like you're like an earth sign that you're evil. That is not what I'm saying. All I'm saying is that there is an expression of this darker force that gets very overlooked and, in my opinion, kind of really shows itself perfectly within these earth sign houses versus, for example, my last video that I did on the water sign houses, which a lot of people confuse, 8th house and 12th house with demons and ghosts, paranormal activity, right? And we confuse those things as evil, when in reality, it's just tapping into the other side. It's spirit, right? And, obviously the topic of demons, we can say like, yes, there's an evil that runs in there, but I will talk about that with you about the earth sign houses. So let's just get straight into it. Now, evil, first of all, what is evil? Well, let's look at the definition of evil. As I have Googled, it says profoundly immoral and wicked, of a force or spirit embodying or associated with the forces of the devil, harmful or tending to harm, of a smell or sight, extremely unpleasant. Now, first I want to cover the devil, right? Because with the devil, I think that's why evil gets really associated, especially with the 8th house, right? And the 12th house, but especially the 8th house of taboos, darkness, things that happen behind closed doors. And although, yes, evil can happen there, we have this devil theme so blown up in society because it kind of takes evil out of the very practical way that we can look at it, right? Which is simply, in my opinion, people who, yes, don't mind being harmful, right? If anything, they use it to their advantage. They use manipulation to their advantage, and they use it to hoard power. They use it to hoard money. They use it to take advantage of the weak, and all for their own willpower to be exerted into this world, this very physical world, right? Because at the end of the day, when we really think about evil things being done, it always has a implication in the physical world, in the real material world. So it's like, how are we not associating it with the earth sign houses, which is all about the physical, right? And when we look at the earth sign houses, we see second house, money, right? 10th house, success. Sixth house, service. And I want to start there because I think it's easy to talk about money and how a lot of people feel like the root of all evil is money, although that's a little bit of a skewed perspective. But we can look at the sixth house, being of service. Now, being of service is something very sacred, but evil does not care about sacred. Evil exploits sacredness. It exploits sex. So yes, we can see how that might run through the 8th house theme of sex, Scorpio, right? But it has a lot to do with the sacredness of being selfless and helping, right? Really just being there for other people without truly caring about yourself, right? One's own needs. It's really putting the needs of others before your own. And when we talk about sixth house, which has to do with working, jobs, health, we are seeing a lot of the similarities between slavery and slavery. That whole period of time, that whole concept is a great evil that has been done. And then we see how slavery has transitioned from actually owning and selling people to working a minimum wage, and the evil that it is to oppress people and to keep them in a service-based world, working for, doing the things that are necessary, the things that are required, which is that sixth house work, right? Cleaning, taking care of kids, all of the little detail work that people think, oh, you don't need much of a brain for, but so we're not going to pay you a lot. But without those stuff being done, the bigger corporations, 10th house, right? The corporations, the governing forces wouldn't be able to operate without the people that are in service. And the people that are in service are tricked into thinking like, hey, you're doing something so great for us. Like, let's look at the pandemic and nurses, right? Nurses were working. They were working tirelessly and endlessly to take care of others, even though we can say there was a lot of roots of the pandemic that might not even be so clear cut and pure and honest, right? Without getting into that. But then all of a sudden, when the vaccine rollouts happened, what happened? Those same nurses that spent all of their time stressing themselves out, having to separate themselves from their family, scared that they would give their family this disease that could potentially kill them, they're now starting to get fired for refusing to take a vaccine, just like that. Looked at as divergent, as, useless, even though they were the ones, quote unquote, slaving away. How evil is that, right? How evil is it to be one of the richest men in the world and have hundreds of thousands of people work for you, and then you're not putting in that work yourself. You're not even giving them baseline comforts, healthcare, breaks, a decent wage so that they can take care of their family without struggling. And then you're implementing rules on them, 10th house, rules and structure, and I am better than you, right? This hierarchy of, well, we know things, and because we know things and we run things, you need us, even though it's actually the opposite way. So I recorded twice, and the second time I got cut off, of course, during the topic of evil. So, right, like I was saying, I said a lot after that last piece, but I'm going to try to recap the best I can. So, 10th house, governing structures, power, the accumulation of power and what power does to you, slavery, using people, becoming manipulative, right? And hoarding resources. Second house, hoarding things to yourself and not caring about others and what they have and what they need. And so let's talk about being selfless, which is that sixth house. You can be a selfless person, but you can be used in this world as it stands, being a very selfless person. So where does selflessness start? It starts with the self, right? It starts with you doing it for you, so that ripples out, and that naturally what you do for you actually is in of service to others, right? Evil needs a vessel. Evil needs physical vessels and doors open for it to manifest through, or else it will just stay in the spirit realm, right? And that's why it's important to understand like how how the water sign houses can get involved with the manifestation of the evil, but where does the evil manifest? It manifests within these earth sign houses, right? So you got to get your values straight, second house, or else when you do something like have sex, eighth house, which is very sacred, you can manifest a whole slew of problems, right? You can become over possessive and obsessive and become evil or toxic yourself because you have not yet understood your own values and now open a spiritual gateway for these emotions to now be taken over by this force of quote unquote evil, right? Which is just the opposite of love, really. So, and I mean, Love, Evil, evil, if you spell love backwards. But anyway, so let's talk about the parasite and demon thing, because that's not the only place we can manifest these demons. Now, parasites operate just like demons. And so when we are putting things in our diet, right, when the people who are working this minimum wage can only eat fast food because that's all that they can afford, that's an evil all by itself. Because the people who are in charge of these corporations of McDonald's and Burger King and etc., they know exactly what they're feeding the public. They know they're feeding the public nothing, right? So what happens then? The public needs more medical insurance. They need more medication, and they start getting illnesses over time, and then they need to spend more of their money, right? So these things that you're putting in your body, these parasites that live within your gut, since the gut and the brain have a literal nerve that runs through them, they're directly connected. The solar plexus, which is the gut, and the crown chakra, which is the mind and the brain, the information from the divine, you're literally, first of all, blocking that and allowing the demon or parasite to live within your vessel and take over your feelings, because what happens in your gut has a lot to do with your feelings. Now you're having bad thoughts, depressive thoughts, suicidal thoughts. You're thinking about doing harm on others. You don't want to live. You don't see the purpose of living. You can't find meaning anymore because you are now cutting yourself off from the higher source, cutting yourself off from love, and allowing this door to be open that is just evil, right? It's just something that wants to take from you, take from you, take from you. And now you are of service to your parasites. You are in service now to your demons. Instead of you understanding demon also has the term derivative from daemon. You can go back into Greek and philosophy and learn about that. A daemon was basically just a spirit that you were in contact with and you can get information from. So, if the only spirits you can now be informed by are ones that want you to serve them and will only continue to basically fuel you, if you do that, you become a vessel of evil, even if you have the greatest intentions. What happens in the material world stays in the material world. And all of these ideas of evil really come from the harm being done to us, the things that are not good. And we see that in the physical earth plane. So, right, sex, your dreams, those third house stuff, which is water, is always opposite of earth, right? Cancer, Capricorn, Taurus, Scorpio, Virgo, Pisces. Earth and water are always opposite and playing out the different ends of the spectrum there. So earth, your vessel, right? Your body, your values, second house, the things you own, they should all be very good representations of what you are. They should be direct representations of your value. You should have your values core down, and you should be living them 6 hours day to day and without faltering, right? This is where the discipline of that comes from, though, because if you can create a vessel, then you will start to gain quote unquote success, which in one way, success has been blown up in a very evil sense, making you feel like you need Gucci, Prada, Fendi in order to be successful. You need a big bank account and a nice car in order to gain followers and people that care about you, right? Love, which no, love is free. Love is boundless. Love is the opposite of evil. So love can be attained no matter what state you're in. But the love that is promoted through the bad parts of these earth sign houses, the evil parts, right, are gonna only give you this surface, shallow version of love that you need to keep gaining more in order to keep getting the cookie crumbs. So when you start to gain success, who are you as a boss? Are you able to still live those values out strongly and give everyone an equal part of that? Understand that, like, even though you've acquired power, now you are not any different than the person that's working for you, that needs to come to you for help and resources, that you are willing to share your resources, that you don't want to hoard your resources. And people get very kind of offended when you tell them, like, oh, so you can't, when you have a certain level of finances or whatever, you should be figuring out ways how to give it back to your community or give back to others. And then people go, well, but I worked for this, I earned this. Remember, that mentality comes from this idea that, because I put in the work, that other person doesn't deserve the resource because they need to put in the work. Although every single person is out here working. This is the big manipulation tactic that is used with these earth sign houses and shielded in the paranormal, shielded in the taboo, shielded in the occult, when the occult knowledge does not mean evil, right? And it doesn't make you an evil person to know things. But what happens is the things that you know, 8th house, you can now capitalize on. 10th house and 2nd house, you can now make money off of it if you hoard it. Once again, 2nd house hoarding all of those resources. So think about that when it comes to evil and how you take care of the sacredness of you, your body, and your success and your money and information. I'm not saying you need to give it all away for free. No, exchange is always going to be a part of our life. Value and money is always going to be a part of our life. There's always going to be, there's a spider there. I wish I could show you all the little spider just popped up. But yeah, these physical things are going to be important, trade important, but it's the overdoing it. It's the addiction that comes from having these things in our lives and then not being able to relate to those who haven't got it yet or haven't worked as hard as you, right? Thinking that if you're not selflessly every single day working up and sacrificing everything else in your life to gain money, then you're worthless of money. You're worthless to it. You shouldn't have it. You shouldn't have nice things. These are our rights. Coming onto this planet, what the planet provides us, the sustenance, the nature, the food, the beautiful views, the sun, those are all luxuries that we all have. So getting caught up within that rat race, climbing that ladder, 10th house, climbing that ladder to some sort of prestigious top of the mountain place that is truly very isolating and alone. These are the things we have to redo. We have to reprogram these understandings within us, or we are constantly putting up a blind eye to some of the worst things on the planet, the worst evils that are being done, and acting like, because you figured it out that Nobody else needs help. They just need to figure it out too. There is so much evil happening unconsciously and subconsciously, right? Now that goes back to the water houses and how that plays out. You know, you can't turn a blind eye to everything. You have to have an open mind to the truth and the darkness of our reality, what's not right. And we can't feed what's not right a little bit and think that, well, it's okay, you know, it's okay. If we're feeding the corporation, if we're feeding the beast constantly, then we are co-signing the evil that they do, regardless of whether we like it or not. It does matter. So keep that in mind. Yeah, it's a interesting topic. I just want to lay that out there for those houses. And then hopefully next video I'll get into some of the other houses, or I'll tackle that Medusa video that somebody wanted me to do, which I think is great to talk about because it also covers, you know, evil and the material and the taboo and all of the things. But till next time, of course, y'all could find me in regular moon updates every time the moon changes every 3 days on my Instagram and .razy. And if you want to work with me long term, hit me up on Instagram or email me and I will get back to you. I am working on courses for astrology to teach the basics and then tackle some other things. So just keep up with me on Instagram. That's the best way to find out what I'm doing as I'm doing it. And I hope to see y'all and connect with y'all soon. You can always find other readings available on the Mystical Illuminations website. And I love you all. Thank you for taking me in as I am. And I appreciate all of y'all for who you are. Peace.